What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hollywood Unveiled, where we pull back the curtain on the Hollywood entertainment industry and get to know the people and stories behind the magic. I'm Jake.
And I'm Logan.
We've got an awesome movie to look into today. Logan, tell me about it.
Yes. So with these movies, like, we always want to look at a movie that fundamentally changed the industry. In whatever way you can look at the timeline, and it's different after this movie came out. So this week we chose John Wick, a true action phenomenon, really. An ex-hitman comes out of retirement to track down the gangsters who killed his dog and stole his car. The movie stars Keanu Reeves as John Wick, Ian McShane as Winston, Lance Reddick as Carone, Adrian Palicki as Miss Perkins, Michael Nyqvist as Viggo Tarasov, Alfie Allen as Yosef Tarasov, John Leguizamo as Aurelio, I know I'm listing a lot of cast here, Bridget Moynihan as Helen Wick, and Dean Winters as Avi. Do you know who Dean Winters is?
That name sounds so familiar.
If you don't, that's fine. He's what I like to call one of those guys actors. How about this? I bet I can get you to remember this guy in one word.
Okay.
Mayhem.
Oh, yes. Mayhem. Got it.
Yes.
Mayhem
Yes.
looks like he just came out of a John Wick movie, honestly, half the time. So it makes total sense.
The first one, which I always forget, having seen it multiple times, knowing the movie, I always forget that he's in the damn movie.
And he's basically the audience in the movie the whole time, too.
Kinda, yeah.
He's like, what the hell is going on? Somebody give me a gun.
I started working for the bad guy after all of this shit, so I don't know any of it. So please,
and I don't speak Russian.
Yeah. Oh, and someone else who I forgot to mention is in there, Willem Dafoe. The cast for this first one is, I don't want to say weirdly stacked, but like it is a stacked cast for this first one.
It is. It really came out of nowhere. This movie came out of nowhere and came with a powerful cast, and nobody knew what to expect. All they knew is that, oh, it's this movie. I heard it's a movie about a guy who people kill his dog and he goes on a revenge spree, which everybody can relate to, the feeling of it. Yeah,
it's one of those motivations where I don't think anybody hears it and then he killed everyone and they go, I think he overreacted. Every single person who hears that is like, yeah.
For all our writers out there listening, this is sort of the reverse Save the Cat, right?
Yes.
The dog, and it wasn't saved.
Hurt the dog, you gonna die.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, but it is fascinating how seemingly how close this movie was to just not really happening. So it was written by Derek Kolstad. And prior to this movie, prior to 2014, he had been attempting to write, but nothing had kind of gotten to the development kind of phase. He apparently says to his wife one day, he's like, I think I'm going to kind of quit. Like, you know, like I'm not getting anything made. I don't feel great about what I'm doing. And she kind of pushes, like, well, you know, it's like, keep it going for another couple of years and then see how you feel. And then in 2012, I think for both of these, he gets two movies that actually get made. And those are Package with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Dolph Lundgren, and One in the Chamber with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Dolph Lundgren.
He's a big fan of Dolph Lundgren, apparently.
Apparently, this dude loves Dolph Lundgren.
I hadn't seen either of these, though, but I'm interested now that I know this guy wrote John Wick.
And they are 100% like an action movie, a blockbuster, where it's like you're walking through the aisles, you're like, yep, that looks like a thing.
So kids at home, a blockbuster used to be a place you'd go to rent movies.
Now, you see, renting movies is when you would physically pick up a copy and then take it somewhere else, as opposed to push a button and it was there in your home.
And now a button used to be a physical thing that you used to push.
And a floppy disk is no, there is something interesting, though, about the movie Package. So Steve Austin plays a character named Tommy Wick.
All right.
So the name is at least, you know, has a little bit of history there.
It feels like he was starting to develop an idea.
A little bit, yes. He starts working on this new script. It is originally titled Scorn. He picks the name John Wick because that's actually his grandfather's name.
Oh, what a sweet way to honor him.
Yes, and his grandfather owned a business that was like Wick's something. I'm not 100% sure what the business was.
Guns.
That would be really on the nose. I don't think it was guns and or ammo, but yeah, he starts developing this thing. It's called Scorn. And it's at this point that he manages to get the script into the hands of Chad Stahelski and David Leitch. Chad and David are both working on, well, not at the time, obviously, but like they had both worked on The Matrix. Leitch was listed at least on IMDb as just Stunts, and Chad was the martial arts stunt coordinator. At least is how it's listed on Reloaded and I think Revolutions as well.
And doubled for Keanu in those movies as well. So
yes. Now, interestingly, the original script, John Wick, 75 years old.
Interesting.
Yes, they were modeling him off of Clint Eastwood and Paul Newman. That was kind of the vibe they were going for someone like a John Wick.
I would love to see Clint Eastwood doing those moves.
It would be wild to imagine Clint Eastwood just sidekicking Scott Adkins in a fat suit off of a balcony in a rave. Yep. That would be the weirdest visual I think I could ever imagine. Yeah, so it's a very different movie. And apparently when they were starting to cast, they pitched it to Eastwood at some point. They also went to Harrison Ford, which like, all right, I could see the vibe of that kind of working. But at some point in there, Keanu gets a hold of it. And Keanu starts reading it and kind of suggests this idea of like, well, what if he is a little bit younger? Like, what if he still has the same like storied history, but is still a retired man, but like retired early for a whatever reason? And that kind of is kind of the transition point in how Keanu kind of comes on board. Because at this point in his career, the end of the 90s, early 2000s, he's doing The Matrix. And that launches him into the stratosphere in terms of fame and popularity. Like everybody knows Keanu. He's a household name over, like not necessarily overnight, but like everybody knows this dude. But at this point in 2012 and 2013, like he was doing stuff like the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still.
That didn't really get the response everybody was hoping for there.
No, like right before this comes out, he's doing like direct to video stuff. Actually, right before this, he had actually transitioned to a almost different thing. He had directed his first movie, which is awesome. If you haven't seen it, it's called The Man of Tai Chi.
Oh, right.
And it stars a stunt performer named Tiger Chen, who's in Matrix Reloaded and in one of the John Wicks. I think he is one of the dudes who fights John in the knife store.
Okay, nice.
I think he's one of the guys in that sequence. But like Keanu's doing some really cool like camera work in that. Like he has some quote where he talks about the camera rig they use. And he's like, in The Matrix, we did a lot of camera movements digitally because we had digital characters and it was like going through the action and kind of going all around it. And he's like, I wanted to do that practically. So they had a camera rig that was like going through the action, going all around and doing all kinds of wild stuff for these really, really cool inventive fight sequences.
That's great.
Yeah, so I highly recommend that one because it is a ton of fun.
I have not seen that. That is going on the list now.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely worth a viewing. And the only other like alternate bit of casting that I could find with this was Winston. So apparently they originally offered it to, and I think he accepted. They offered it to Jason Isaacs. So that's Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter stuff. And he's great. Like but for whatever reason, right beforehand, he had to drop out. I don't know, probably scheduling or something. Like I don't know for whatever reason, but it then goes to Ian McShane, who kind of now it's like it's weird to think of Winston as anyone but that really dry wit that kind of comes with what Ian McShane brings to the part. And so they get Keanu on board. They start filming. It's a relatively quick shoot. They do film on location. They go to New York, the Continental. Like they want that to feel like a real place. Me being a nerd, it's the Daily Bugle from the Raimi Spider-Man movies. They do as much as they can practically. It's kind of a big thing with them because, both Chad and David come from stunts. They want to show that you should do this as practically as possible and without a lot of wire stunts.
And from what I hear, everybody talked about that this was supposed to feel as real as possible, too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. They were kind of stripping away all of the like glam of it and just going, here's the most realistic thing, even down to like when Keanu shoots somebody, it's not just like a no look boo. It's like, no, let me put one in and then 2 or 3 on the ground to make sure you're down. And then I'm continuing. So like, yeah, it plays it so much more realistic. Mm-hmm. One of the shots, though, that they could not rely on realism for was a shot of a turd. Apparently the shot of the little dog turd in John's backyard was completely CGI because
that's fun.
Chad has some quote where he's like, yeah, the studio wouldn't let us give the dog laxatives. Like, and it's clear that he's joking, but it's like, I mean, yeah, if you're doing everything practical, yeah. But so it cost him about $5,000 to get the shot finished. And they sent it back for at least 20 different passes.
That is the shittiest use of CGI I've ever heard of.
Yes. Yes. And it's hilarious that it's like, all right, that's what's going to take a bunch of the money. Not a bunch of the money, but that's going to take a lot of
I imagine that that this movie did not have the kind of budget the subsequent films would have afterwards too.
No. So this movie was made on a budget of about 20 to 30 million.
It's an unproven property, right? And
yes.
And with an actor who didn't yet have his resurgence. He was in massive films before, but people started kind of making Keanu jokes about acting like, whoa, just really going down the whoa hole.
Well, and lest we forget, Chad and David had not directed a movie before.
Exactly. First film too.
So so you've got first time directors, a star that no one's really kind of believing in anymore, a screenwriter who has had 2 movies that were direct to video, what have you. And I don't mean that as a negative comment on them. And with this one, Keanu, he really wanted the movie to get made, so he put in his own money. So that's why he's listed as a producer on it. He was like, I really believe in this thing. I want to kind of do this right. So that was part of the shooting on location. He kind of helped to put in a lot of some of his own money to help with that.
Just adds to the long list of good guy stories about Keanu Reeves. In the world of VFX, I know he put in a bunch of money for the visual effects departments on the Matrix movies too.
Yes, and that is I love that story.
Make sure people are taken care of, and it just makes him one of the few Hollywood gems remaining these days. We're just gonna have to do a full Keanu episode one day where we just talk about the amazing things we heard about Keanu. So
that I would be very curious to peel back the curtain on just Keanu and kind of see his path through the industry.
Me too.
I don't want to word that as if we have him as a guest. We don't. No. But just in general,
maybe one day.
Well, hey, I'll put it out there as the one day. Yeah, sure.
That's going on the vision board.
Yeah. But yeah, just the idea of looking through his filmography.
Yeah.
And seeing the journey of Keanu from, throughout his career.
I feel like there's a whole slew of Chuck Norris type jokes you can make about Keanu, but about how good a guy he is.
Yes.
Not the badass. We already know that part. The good guy part. So Logan, as far as the stunts in this series, I mean, they're just absolutely extraordinary. We talked about how they wanted this to feel as real as possible. And really, starting with the first film, they nailed that. Everything feels real. I mean, in later films, he falls down a 20-story building and, but it survives. But they kind of give some plausibility to it. So
he does one thing that I read in a comic somewhere, which is the best way to survive one big fall. Mm-hmm. Turn it into a lot of small falls.
Yes.
Which he does.
Yep.
He does do that.
Yep. There you go. They play fast and loose with the physics of a bulletproof suit, but again, later films. So as far as this film goes, the implementation of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the real gun training that he went through. In fact, in the process of all these stunts and all the training he did, he actually, I don't know if it was in this film or later films, but he accidentally seems to have invented a quick reload move that actually shaves off time in competitive shooting and now is a thing. He didn't just make things real, he made real things better.
See, I liked that you were bringing it to a good thing, because I thought you were bringing in the realism with how Keanu fights as John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you know this, but I think I remember reading on the movie Chain Reaction way back when.
Oh, man, yeah.
And tail into the 90s with
That's
Keanu.
going back.
He hurt himself and had both a bulging and a fractured disc in his like back and in his neck.
Wow.
So when he got onto the first Matrix, like, he didn't really tell anybody because he didn't want to lose the job. But like, if you watch any of the bonus features for like Matrix 2 at the very, like, he's wearing a neck brace.
Oh yeah. That I saw him doing that all the time. I thought that might have been precautionary.
No, it was because of this injury. So like, so you'll notice kind of in the first movie, he's doing a lot of kind of big movements, and the movements that he kind of does, especially as you get into like Resurrections, they tone down a little bit. So his fighting style in the John Wick stuff, because he wants to do a lot of his own fight choreography, it's all, okay, here's the actual move. How do we modify it so that Keanu can do it and it still looks just as good?
Yeah. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the areas where that can all come into play. It's not the big kung fu like they did in The Matrix. It's a lot of throws. It's a lot of rolling. It's a lot of that. And one thing that I really respect about him is people in interviews all the time keep trying to say, so you do all your own stunts in this film? And he goes, no. I do not do stunts. I do action, because there are people who do the stunts, the really dangerous stuff, get hit by cars, fall off buildings. They do all that stuff. That's stunts. And they do it, and they do it to an extraordinary level. And I heard Danny Trejo say this. He said, stunts? I don't do stunts. If I do stunts and I get hurt, all these people are out of work for a period of time until I get better. And so that comes with a huge responsibility. Look at Tom Cruise. He does a lot of his own stunts too, but he also puts up the money with the insurance. So if he gets
is the
hurt,
producer who has to pay if it goes south. Exactly.
And he actually did that when he broke his foot on one of the Mission Impossible movies.
But give him credit. He finished the shot.
He finished a shot.
Still usable.
Yep. He finished a shot. It stayed in the movie. And then they took a few months off for his foot to heal.
I think actually, from what I've heard, they took a few days off and then just filmed scenes where he just had to stand there.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Like they filmed with the rest of the cast.
They did the non-running action scenes.
Yes, exactly.
Everything from the shoulders or waist up, with no cast on his foot.
Can you turn and shoot? Yeah.
Hey, just want to jump in real quick here. Don't forget, you can like, comment, and subscribe to our show. It really helps us out. You get to know about all the brand new episodes coming out. And it's all down below.
Yeah, you could. You should. Do it. We'll stick John Wick on you. Do it. So I do think it's kind of fun. So we're talking about like the stunts, the changes that kind of happened to this movie. So we talked about how originally it was named Scorn. Do you have any idea why the name got changed to John Wick?
Please tell me.
Because Keanu kept referring to it as that in press, and just like in like development, he's like, oh yeah, I just got done working on John Wick and this and that. Like, and then eventually they're like, we gotta, like, if we release this as Scorn, no one's gonna know what the hell movie like we're talking about.
Was that mid press that they changed the title?
That's the thing. The first movie, there was not an overabundance of press surrounding it.
True.
So I think it was more so just like, what have you been working on? It's like, oh, I just did this action movie called, this action movie, John Wick. It's gonna be fun. Like, it's probably that kind of thing. And they keep hearing those and they're like, man, like they're gonna change the title. Much better title. Let's be real. John Wick. Oh yeah. Way better than Scorn.
Oh yeah.
But there were a lot of moments kind of throughout where the film itself quite nearly changed. Like there's one quote from one of the producers where like he was watching some of the dailies getting shot, and he was there on the day they were shooting the scene of John mourning the puppy, which like is already a hefty scene, but he's watching that and he's like, this is not gonna play. Like he, for whatever, like he's like, it's not clicking with him. He's like, this is gonna be too much. It's gonna put the audience off of the movie, and we're never gonna be able to recover from this. And this is like 10 minutes into the movie. But a few days later, the scene that clicked and had him go, oh, now I get it. If this is the tone, I get it, and I'm here for it, is when the police officer shows up at John's house after he's just taken out like the hit squad. And John is playing it just super straight. And the guy's like, are you good?
I remember seeing that the very first time, because you're watching this movie along the way and you've seen the trailers. You're like, I still don't know what this is exactly, but I'm watching it. Right. And that's the moment you realize, oh, this is different.
Yes. On a cute little note, I don't know how they got the puppy to just lick the ever-loving heck out of Keanu for that shot where the puppy wakes him up in the morning.
Did they just rub like food all over his face? Like
slathered him in bacon grease.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly what it was. So they have all of these different things in the edit. You know, it's like apparently there was a bunch of deleted or a couple deleted scenes that had a running subplot where John had a hobby of restoring old leather-bound books. Yeah, which like it's like okay, like his hobby is he does this thing that like is preserving history, as opposed to like killing people, which is I'm ending people's histories.
So that kind of reminds me of the beginning of John Wick 3, where he ends up at the public library. He has the book that's a stash box.
I love that like he closes it back up. He seems to take great care, and he puts it back on the shelf. It's like I'm restoring this as best I can, even though I just killed a giant man with it. Because the giant man's literally an NBA player, and he's 7'3". So in test audience screenings, like the producers note about like how we might lose him with the dog. They kind of did. A lot of the notes they got in the test audience was like, that's a bit too much. Like we really didn't like that scene. That scene made us really sad. And they completely understood it, but at the same time, it's like, but that is what gets the audience on board with John instantly. As sad as it is, it justifies every single decision his character makes for the rest of the movie.
It justifies every kill, every single one.
So as they were kind of filming on this movie, there were a few films that they feel like really kind of inspired the movie itself. The Killer, the John Woo film, not the more recent David Fincher movie.
Yep.
Point Blank, and a French film called The Red Circle.
Oh.
Also, here's a random one that also kind of inspired it a little bit. One of the Pink Panther movies where a bunch of assassins are hired to go after Clouseau. So it's like, all right, like that's kind of the thing with John Wick. It's like, all right, a bunch of assassins are going after one person. There's a little bit of that as well. And one of the key elements of the John Wick series that has kind of developed at this point are the coins. These mysterious coins. This was inspired by Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. In that movie, there is just a bag of mysterious gold coins that are just kind of treated as like the end all be all. We got to get those.
And pulling those elements, you know, that the nightclub in the first movie where he first goes after the son of the bad boss, the Red Circle.
I did not know that. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a reference if I ever heard one.
I've seen it just enough times to remember that. But as far as the coins go, dude, I mean, like, there's a ton of speculation online of people just that are really speculating. What are these coins worth? I mean, I've seen entire video essays on what they're worth, because on one hand, you can buy a drink with it. On the other, you could kill a man.
Yes, you can literally give one to each person. One buys you a drink. The other buys you a car.
Yep. And
that's a weird dichotomy.
Yeah. But if you want to get rid of bodies, it's one per body, apparently. So it's so a coin represents a task. It represents an exchange of just barter more than it does value.
I think at the simplest terms, the coins just represent a favor. Like, you come and do this for me. I have paid you a favor. You can use that favor to get other favors, to pay other, so it's just kind of treated.
It's sort of a one for one, rather like it takes like a monetary value off of something or a actual number off of things. It seems to be sort of a one for one trade. It really is. There's like so much speculation about it. I mean, hey, if you watching this right now, you have an idea of what these coins are worth. Is it value? Is it a trade? Please let us know in the comments below. Because I'm fascinated by this idea. But everybody's kind of guessing around. So I mean, it's up in the air a bit. It's like a coin flip.
So after this movie is made, right after they filmed everything, it's gone through editing. They still cannot find a studio to distribute. They apparently show this movie to everybody in town. Couple of execs walk out of the screenings. Now I don't know.
Was it when the dog died?
That's the thing. Like, I always hear that, like, at South by Southwest, where they're like, oh, this movie was so vulgar, people walked out of the screening. And it's like, or someone realized, like, at that point, they realized this movie isn't for me. I'm just going to go see something. Like, it wasn't I'm offended and I'm walking out. It's just, I'm just not
and these are a festival setting. So the viewership, the audience is very different, because at the end of these movies too, you have 10-minute standing ovations, and many of them, because the filmmakers are there for other reasons. So walkouts, standing ovations, they mean different things there too.
Yeah. So they couldn't find any distributor. It almost, much like the way of Kolstad's other films, it was almost direct to video. And then it was Lionsgate. Lionsgate swooped in and said, you know what? We like this. Our home video division has distributed the last few of Keanu's movies, so we got a good working relationship with him. I'm pulling that out of my ass, but like a lot of Keanu's movies were direct to video Lionsgate things. So Lionsgate took a chance, and they turned this tiny, they say about 20 to 30 million for the budget. We'll split the difference, say 25. Went on to, for the first film, make $86 million and spawn a series, a franchise that has grossed over $1 billion.
And individually, I know these movies, their particular numbers were not extraordinary numbers, but I know they were great numbers for the amount of money they spent on them, and the reliability that when you make one of these, you're gonna make money. So they just keep making them.
And that's the thing. I think even though the budgets have been slowly increasing, they're just making them bigger.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I think they keep getting away with it, because their budget is still, in the grand scheme, low. And then by the time it comes out, it does gangbusters, whether it is on in theaters or on home video. It is fun to see Keanu bounce back to this at this stage of his career.
You know, there's one word you can use to put that.
Whoa.
I'm glad we were on the same page with that one.
I read somewhere, or I think I heard somewhere, that there are 2 lines in the John Wick franchise that are direct references to the Matrix. The first is when Vigo, our villain for the first movie, little Yosef's dad, when he calls John Leguizamo and is like, "You hit my son, why?" And he's like, "Yeah, he fucked with John Wick." The guy's going, "Oh." Apparently his little O is kind of meant to at least vaguely sound more like a slowed down thing to reference the woe.
Okay.
And at one point in, I think it's John Wick 3.
I think I know which way. It's far less subtle.
What do you need? And he goes, "Guns. Lots of guns." And that is a direct line from the Matrix.
Yep. That's a little less subtle, but
But Jake, you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's game time, you son of a bitch.
We got a game. All right.
But I've got a few random questions that I want to ask you that vaguely tie into this movie, this franchise, and or Keanu. You got 3 questions.
All right. I'm excited because I don't even know what these are going to be.
One question is a multi-parter, but we're saving that one for last. First things first, because we talked about it a little bit earlier. Stunts is our category.
Yes.
What are the 2 stunts that Keanu has definitively said he will not do?
Is there a time limit on this?
No, but I'll give you a hint. You said one of them earlier.
Is one of them just take a fall?
Ooh, judges, need you to be more specific.
Crash into something or get hit by a car?
Get hit by a car is one of them.
All right,
yes.
all right. Okay, at least
that is 1 point for the second point.
He won't get hit by a car. Is it something he has done in the past that he doesn't want to do now?
It is not something that he has done in the past. The last clue I will give you, it is something that happens to John Wick at some point during the 4 movies.
A stunt. Catch on body burns.
He has not done body burns. The answer is falling downstairs.
Stairs. Okay, so they're both fall related or hit.
That's where you were like
impact related. Fall downstairs.
You were close with take a fall. I was like, I need the more specific, and then you jump to getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
So yes, getting hit by a car. That is
falling downstairs.
It's getting hit by a car and falling downstairs. Ooh. Those are the 2 stunts that Keanu definitively. Like, no, I will not do.
Okay. I know my stunt friends, if they're listening, are been yelling at me right now. So
yes. All right. So your second question, and I don't have the answer or the full answer to this, so I'm not going to make you break it down as much as you might think.
Okay.
Question number 2.
All right.
How many movies has Keanu been in where he has been named John?
Oh, okay. Now is John Wick just one?
4 of them are John Wick.
Four of them are John. Okay.
four of the total number are John Wick.
Okay. So we have 4 here.
It's at least 4.
Okay. So I got to figure out what's over here now.
Yes. How many others are there?
Does the Matrix count? Because he's Neo, no, but is he John? Thomas. I was going to say John Anderson. Or man.
No. But
man.
Also,
wow.
A little hilarious that it's like, what's the savior name? Tom. Anyway, continue. How many times has Keanu been named John?
I'm just gonna guess 3 more over here, so we'll say 7. That's how math works, right?
I'm sorry, the answer is 10.
10. Okay.
10, including films like Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that was one of my 3. Yeah, that's right.
Constantine.
Okay.
And a few others. Like I said, so the figure that I found is he is in 10 movies and 1 video game.
I believe the video game is Cyberpunk. Yep, I played that.
And of course, Point Break, Johnny Utah.
Yeah,
I think isn't that his name in Speed?
This could have been a Google search. 1 second.
Yeah, this could have been a Google search, but I'm asking now. So.
Keanu. Wow, I just went movies where Keanu Reeves is named John. That's my autofill here. Oh, you're gonna love this one because we mentioned it in a previous episode.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Dracula. Jonathan Harker.
Okay.
Much Ado About Nothing.
All right. Your third question.
All right.
You got about a 50-50 split at this point. You got the points for the first question. You got the point. You didn't get the point for the second question.
I'm getting partial points at this point.
I think, this will really be the kicker. So this one's going to be difficult. So I'm going to ask you the question.
All right.
And then I'm going to give you the range that will be an acceptable answer. This is to the nearest 10. How many deaths are in each movie of the John Wick franchise?
I quit.
To the nearest 10. To the nearest
10. To the nearest 10 in each John Wick movie or
John Wick
in total.
Well, and then I'll give you a bonus point if you can tell me the total to the nearest, the total across all 4 movies to the nearest 10.
If you cause me an aneurysm right now,
you just start throwing out numbers. That's
okay.
all you got.
Let's say
John Wick 1.
50.
Higher than 50. All right. Into John Wick 2.
70.
Higher. You didn't get 2.
Okay. John so I'm not thinking big enough here. I'm not thinking big enough. All right. John Wick 3. Ooh, there's a lot of kills right in the first few minutes. At least some maiming happening there. Okay. Then Rome was John Wick 2. Let's see. John Wick 3. He's on the run. He's back. 120. Not big enough?
Overshot it.
Okay, overcompensated there.
Overshot it. All right, so you are 0 for 3. Okay. John Wick 4.
Has to be over 120 at that point.
I will, you know what? I'm going to give you the point for it. It is not within the 10 over 120, but it is over 120, so I'm going to give you the point.
God. How generous of you.
Well, it is my game. So let's actually break it down. So John Wick 1, you guessed 50. In John Wick 1, he kills 77 people.
Fair.
In John Wick 2, you guessed 70. He killed 128.
See what I'm like guessing the next one. I should have just shifted him over by one.
For 3, you guessed he killed 120 people. He killed 94.
Okay.
So he kills less in John Wick 3.
Yeah, overshot.
And John Wick 4, he kills 151.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So for a bonus point, which if you've been doing the mental math, I sure haven't, how many total people has John Wick killed over the course of 4 movies?
Okay, hang on. 7, 90, 310, 315.
Ooh, you know what? I'm going to give you the point. 340.
I don't deserve the point, but I'll take it. Thank you.
I mean, let's be real. You know what I think? But it is one of those quizzes where you had 3 questions. You got 2 of the 3 questions correct. You succeed in game time. Hey. Congratulations, Jake.
Welcome to Hollywood Unveiled, where the points don't matter.
Welcome to Hollywood Unveiled, where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
That's right.
You realize, though, now we're going to have game time every single one of these.
I'm good with this. And I am going to be the guy that just doesn't have any of the answers, and the audience will just yell at me for my complete lack of memory and information.
Let's be real. I didn't know any of those before I typed them out to ask them to you.
I call myself a John Wick fan, and I own all of them. I've watched them dozens of times.
What you're saying is you have no excuse.
I have no excuse.
When you put it that way, you fail.
Yeah. Logan, on that depressing note, where can the people find you, Logan?
I'm findable. Right now, I'm clearly in John Wick's house.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I burned down.
Well, yeah, pre-burned. That's why we're on John Wick 1. It's still standing.
Yeah. The next episode background will just be burnt lumber.
Just charred. We're doing like the Brave Little Toaster, and the house just burned down.
Oh, no.
I think the house does burn down in Brave Little Toaster.
Oh God, why?
Matter.
Childhood trauma for people, man.
No, I'm findable. I'm on Twitter at FilmGuy89, Instagram at FilmGuy1989. You can find me on YouTube as part of the Quarantine Theater Company. We do a bunch of table reads. We actually did a couple months ago all 4 of the John Wick movies abridged.
Tonight, well, we're sticking with the abridged, but we're doing John Wick. We're doing all the trilogy of Keanu's new cool franchise. I can't wait to see how this one's going to go. These abridged scripts are always a ton of fun.
We got through 4 movies in like an hour.
And we will definitely link to that in the description below. People, check it out. They are a lot of fun to watch.
How about you? Where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Threads. One of these days I'll post on Threads. But at VFX2Go, you can find us on our website, vfx2go.com. And hey, Logan, did you know that we have a .com too?
I heard rumors.
You can check us out at hollywoodunveiled.com or at the socials listed below. They're around Hollywood Unveiled podcast. We're findable.
You said one of these days I will post to Threads, and I'm like, yeah, one of these days I will get Threads.
Yeah.
But I haven't yet.
Dude, your clothes are awesome. And one of these days, Logan, we'll figure out how to end the show. But until then, I've been Jake.
I've been Logan.
And this has been Hollywood Unveiled.
Yes, and until next time, don't kill dogs. That's like a Cujo situation. Then, maybe that dog jettisoned into space.
Or John Wick will come for you.
But yeah. You know what will piss off John Wick? Nothing stops John. Nothing.
Definitely not the box office.
No.
Whoa.